Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's quick start. Yep, just had to do some last minute preparations. Had to get myself a glass of water there. Make sure I'm all set up. Don't have any interruptions there. One more second. All right, there we go. All right. Welcome, everyone, to today's quick start. All right, excellent. You can hear me. All right. So we're going to do this a little different. Today we're going to focus on the core chart. I'm sure a few of you have some questions. I see Robert had a question. So we're going to focus exclusively on core. And then I'll walk through the trade setups using the core template. And then the last half hour we'll answer any questions. So feel free to throw some questions out there when they pop up. And then after we're done walking through the trades, I'll go ahead and answer you guys' questions. All right, so I'm sure many of you have a few questions about the core. It is basically just a very simplified chart that allows us to spot and enter single T, continuation, and momentum trades very easy. So if you've been using Pro9 for a while, you may be comfortable with the full chart already. So this is kind of geared toward building a stronger foundation with Pro9Trader initially before you jump into using the full chart with the direction, histogram, and super trend. So it's been designed to make it as easy as possible to spot our trades here. So let me just check my news time. Jeff, yes, there is rules that should be updated on the website soon. I'll likely send an email with that as well. All right, so we've kind of wrapped all the indicators into one, or into this one section. So we still do have our colored EMA background, which lets us know when the rules are confirmed to enter into a trade in that direction. And most of our trades are entered on a turn bar, like the single T and continuation are entered on the turn bar or first color bar. So if you see the appropriate background color behind a turn bar or first color bar, that would be a qualified trade. There are a few ways that we can disqualify those trades, and we'll get to those if they pop up. All right, so unfortunately, the CL does have a momentum right here. That is right before a turn bar. So unfortunately, we haven't been able or find a way to eliminate these or know when these are coming, because we can't know when the end of a trend is coming. But our qualifications for the momentum trade are green background with green bars and an upward arrow, or even more simply, the green background and a momentum arrow. And that's just how simple it is with this chart. so we don't need to worry about any other indicators. And we'll walk through. So unfortunately, this one did go against us, and sometimes the first trade of the day, that does happen. All right, so not a ton of movement in CL. Sometimes it can get a bit slow. So let's look at a different chart here. Hopefully get some more trade setups. I haven't had a ton of time to review these, so we'll check this one out in the TF. All right, so again, we have a red background and a downward arrow. And that is all that is required to qualify a momentum trade, depending on the direction you're taking the trade. If it's short, red background with a downward arrow. If it's long, green background with an upward arrow. And that's it. That's all there is to it. And we'll enter these trades with 3 contracts, a 6-tick profit target, and a 15-tick stop. After the first color bar plots, we'll be more than halfway to our profit target. Now we know this because it takes basically 4 ticks from this DPI to this DPI to create the next color bar. So we know that every 4 ticks in the direction of the trend is going to plot a new color bar. And before the closing of this color bar, we'll have hit our profit target somewhere in here. So a couple things could happen. We could hit our profit target, and once we do that, we want to sell 2 of our contracts at our 6-tick profit target and adjust the stop on a runner to break even. So depending if the market was moving quickly, we could adjust to break even. It could move further, or during the completion of this bar, since we hit our profit target somewhere in here, it could tick back up and stop out our runner. But we still hit our profit target. Now, if we continue managing the trade, we'll assume, just so we don't have to refer to a 30-second chart, what do we do if the market continues to move, and how do we trail our running contract? We're going to leave it at break even until the 4th color bar from our entry bar plots. So we entered on bar 10 using this DPI. So bar 14 is the 4th from our entry bar, and now we'll adjust the stop on our runner to the high of the previous bar, which will be this, the most recently completed bar. And we have these handy numbers here to tell us the high and low of the most recently completed bar. And we'll continue trailing at the high of the bar, so each new bar that plots, we'll just adjust our stop to the high of that bar and keep adjusting it as the market continues to move. Now we did get a tail here, and since our stop on this bar would have been, if we go back, we can tell quickly, 1351.2, this wick did not come up high enough to stop us out. It was about 3 ticks short. And after this bar plots, we just adjust our stop again. And we continue doing that until we get stopped out by this turn bar. So in this case, if this runner continued to move and trailing at the high of the previous bar, we would have been able to take part in the rest of this run. Now let's talk about what do we do if we get stopped out in the middle of a run. To get your data box, you click in your mouse wheel. This will give you all the information on this bar, high, low, open, close. And the DPIs displayed will tell you the DPIs needed or the price needs to be reached to create the next bar. So if you want to know the DPI of bar 10, you need to check the data box of bar 9, and so on. And I'll cover the DPI indicator next, so you can see why it works that way. It helps explaining. So in the case of this momentum trade, for argument's sake, we'll say, what do we do if we get stopped out here? This wick popped up enough to wick out our previous stop, so our runner got stopped out at the high of this bar, but we do have another momentum arrow, so we can just re-enter the run and manage the trade the exact same way we were before. And again, the same way with our 3 contracts, 6-tick profit target, and 15-tick initial stop. Again, more than halfway to our profit target after the first bar plots. Hit our profit target somewhere in here, and adjust the stop on our runner to break even, which is our entry price, if that's not clear. And again, if this one continues to move, once the 4th bar from our entry bar plots, we start trailing at the high of that bar. And in this case, we would get stopped out pretty soon after we adjusted, because we do have this turn bar here. All right, let me go pay a little attention to our good friend, the DPI indicator, as it's a very important indicator. This can help us understand how to enter these trades, or know our entry price ahead of time, so we're not waiting for the bar to close all the time, as these momentum arrows will plot live once their conditions are met before the bar closes. So otherwise, we'd always have to get in momentum trades on retracement entries, and we want to try to avoid that as much as possible, because we want to be in as far ahead of time as possible. So our DPI indicators will simply tell us what price needs to be reached to create a bar in either direction. So when we're trending short, if we hit the red DPI, we will create a new color bar, a new red color bar. If we hit the green DPI, it will plot a turn bar, which is just simply a significant move in the opposite direction of the current trend. So it roughly takes, or it does take 4 ticks in the direction of the trend to create a color bar, and 22 ticks against the direction of the trend to plot a turn bar. So you notice these DPI numbers are 26 ticks apart. So we have 22 ticks in the opposite direction and 4 ticks in the direction of the trend. And when looking back historically, why we check the bar before to see the next bar's DPI price, as we can see here, the DPI displayed is the same in the data box as it is on the right of the chart. But we want to know the DPI of this bar. Well, that's currently being displayed. So if we try to check the data box, it will tell us that the DPIs are not available because the next bar hasn't started plotting yet. So it will always tell you of the bar that is currently in progress. And so our DPI will always be our entry points when using this chart, because we'll be entering a momentum. As we see here, this is a qualified momentum trade. We do have our arrow. Our background was red and will be red if this plots a hits the red DPI and plots a new color bar. So our entry price for this would be 1350.1. And that's the way we can quickly, at a glance, what our entry price is, and be in ahead of time. And it's very important we want to use stop limit orders as well, rather than a market order, because we want to have our contracts filled when a certain price is reached, rather than try to get in somewhere in the middle of this bar because we want the market to prove to us that it's going to continue moving in our direction. Now, of course, this doesn't always mean that it will continue to move, but more likely, or it is more likely, to hit our profit target using the DPI this way and confirming the momentum or direction of the price movement. All right, so we had our two momentums here. Again, no momentum arrows. We do have the green background here, but no momentum arrows, so we can't enter into any of these trades. So we do have a single T entry here. And the rules for a single T or continuation are much more simplified with this chart. Basically, do we have a green background? Do we have a turn bar in the appropriate direction, or the first color bar? We can enter up to the first color bar using the DPI of this color bar for the entry. And is the turn bar white? If the turn bar is yellow, that lets us know that one of our rules is not qualified, so we should not enter into that trade. And that's all we're looking for to enter into a single T, is basically all the colors to line up. And it's really that simple. And the single T, we manage it the same way as with the other charts you may use. We enter with our 3 contracts, an 8-tick profit target, and a 22-tick initial stop. And of course, we want to enter using the DPI that created this bar. Since the trade was not qualified on this turn bar, we have up until the close of this bar to confirm. And of course, we can always attempt a retracement entry if necessary. So the entry price for this single T trade would be 1355.5. Another way to find the DPI is simply to add 1 tick to the high of that bar. There's another quick way. And yes, so we want everything to confirm in the direction of the trend. Which it will anyhow. You won't see a red background over green bars or vice versa. So in this way, it's been designed to be as simple as possible to identify these trades. So we're entering with our 3 contracts, 8 ticks profit target for our first 2 contracts, and a 22-tick stop. Now after the first color bar plots, now we're halfway to our profit target. The profit target is 8, takes 4 ticks in the direction of the trend to plot a new color bar. So a quick and easy way we can tell how close to our profit target we are. When the second bar plots, well, let me back up, let's forget a step. After the trade moves 4 ticks in our direction, since we're halfway to our profit target, we can adjust our stop from 22 ticks to 18 ticks. So since we move 4 ticks, we're going to move our stop up 4 ticks. It helps mitigate a bit of risk should the trade go against us. And once the second color bar plots, we have reached our 8-tick profit target. So we would sell off 2 of our contracts. For an 8-tick profit target, and adjust the stop on our third to break even. Now ideally, depending how you're managing this trade, if you're using an ATM, an automated trading management function in the DOM or the chart trader. It will manage all this for you. If you're doing manual trading, ideally, if you have enough time, you want to adjust your stop on all 3 contracts to break even before you sell the 2 at your 8-tick profit target, just to help eliminate any risk in case there's a quick whipsaw of price, which can be rare, but of course it can happen. Yes, so the rules for the single T and continuation, they're still the trade setup, but the rules and everything have just been extremely simplified. And then we'd manage the runner for this trade in much the same way, or in the same way that we managed the previous one. So currently we're at break even. We leave it at break even until we get to the point where we can widen it to the low of the previous bar. But in this case, we can't. It got stopped out, but we did hit our profit target at the close of this bar. Which is part of our money management strategy. It's designed to extract an initial profit of the market and give us an opportunity to take part in as much of a run as possible with that runner. So of course, not everyone is going to run, but we do want to have a contract in there for when it does. All right, I do see your guys' questions, and I will get to those after we walk through a couple more trades here. See if I can find a continuation, as I want to illustrate the differences between the single T and continuation trade on this chart. A single T will have basically more than one color bar in between these turn bars, letting us know that there's been enough space in between these turn bars that this will be a single turn bar trade. A continuation will appear in this type of configuration where we have a turn bar followed by a turn bar in the appropriate direction, or a turn bar, color bar, turn bar. So there's the TT continuation or TCT, turn bar, color bar, turn bar continuation. So other than that, we will identify them and enter them in the same way with this particular chart. Let's check out some of our other markets, see if we can find. And right here on the EMD, we do have a continuation setup. And so, just like we identified the single T, we do have a green background. Our turn bar is trending long, letting us know that as long as we continue moving in the direction of the trend and hit our green DPI price, we'll see green bars plot. And that's it. So we would enter using this DPI that creates this turn bar. Now, if we missed this entry or it didn't confirm until after the bar plots, we can of course attempt a retracement entry, or we can also enter using the DPI of the first color bar. Ideally, of course, you want to get the first entry price or the lowest entry price possible, because we'll hit our profit target sooner and have slightly better odds to hit our profit target. And the continuation is managed in the exact same way as the single T. We have our 3 contracts, 8-tick profit target, 22-tick stop. And again, once the first color bar plots, we're halfway to our profit target. We want to adjust the stop on all 3 contracts from 22 to 18 ticks. And after the next color bar plots, we've hit our profit target. And we can begin managing a runner, because at this point we sell off 2 of our contracts and adjust the stop on a runner to break even, which is the same as our entry price. I have had some confusion. Occasionally, some will ask if it's a break even for the whole trade, and no, that's not the case. We do want to keep our initial profit target that we hit. We want to, of course, get some profit out of the trade rather than hit a profit target, enter a stop for our runner that could eat up all of the profit we just took out, as that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And again, so if we entered on the turn bar, at the close of bar 5 is when we would start trailing at the low of this bar. If you entered on the first color bar, or using the DPI that creates the first color bar, we would just push everything back 1 bar until the close of bar 6. And then as each new bar plots, we simply adjust our stop on the runner to the new low of this bar, and we continue doing that until we get stopped out. And then we have another continuation entry on the first color bar. So we didn't have a green background at the close of this turn bar, but we did see an entry opportunity on the first color bar, which is the latest we can enter these trades. I do want to clarify that. We do not enter a single T or continuation any later than the DPI that creates the first color bar. So that's our entry price will always be one of these two DPI numbers. And a few things that will disqualify these trades is our yellow turn bar. This is going to let us know that one of our rules is, or that we should not enter this trade, kind of like a yellow traffic signal. So even though we may have the appropriate background color for the direction of the trend, if we see this yellow turn bar, we're not going to enter a trade on this turn bar. So now, even though we had a yellow turn bar here, if later on down the run we have a red background and a momentum arrow, we can enter that. This doesn't prohibit trades being entered for the rest of the run, just for this particular bar. Or I should say for this particular trade entry, as well as the first colored bar. And also, we may not see an example of it, the DPI will also turn yellow, warning you that you should not enter into a trade. All right, I do see some questions in there, and we'll get to those in a moment. All right, let's take a look at some of our other charts here before we hop into the questions. Now there's some movement on the YM. This guy get us, was there news? No, there was news at 10. So we also have this news indicator that will let you know incoming news for the rest of the day. And we'll just set out 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after these news events. Unfortunately, in the YM, we did have this momentum entry. Looks like it got caught the same way as the CL, as our first qualified momentum entry did go against us, unfortunately. So give me a second, guys. All right, thank you, guys. All right, so if there is a yellow turn bar, we don't want to enter at that area. So even if we had the red background here, we did have our yellow turn bar. We wouldn't want to enter on the first colored bar. Oof. Rough morning on the YM. We do have this single T as well that does qualify on this first color bar, but unfortunately, that one goes against us as well, which we aren't going to shy away from because those are going to happen sometimes. So, all right, so let me start going through some of these questions for you guys. Let's see. To enter, do you need a white arrow on the YM? Not enter on bar 8. Yeah, so to enter a momentum trade, we do need to see an arrow in the appropriate direction on the correct background color as well. So even though the background is red, during this section, we don't have an entry point because we need a momentum arrow to trigger over the appropriate background color for us to enter into that trade. So even though the red background kicked in here, we wouldn't enter using this DPI. All right, Jennifer, why not set up color for news to stay out? Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. That may be too taxing for the charts to try to link the news to display elsewhere on the chart as well, like a warning color. So you just kind of have to pay attention to the time and know when the news is coming. All right, so Jeff needs a little clarification on the single T and continuation. No, so the single T or continuation will only be entered on a turn bar or up to the first color bar. So even though we get the red background later on, we don't have a turn bar to enter. So, and we're far past the first color bar, so we wouldn't have an entry point on this whole run. And sometimes that's going to happen. There's not always going to be entry points for our trade setups. So we will see plenty of times where a situation just like this, and then there's just as many times where we'll have an arrow right where we need it to be. or we'll have the red background back here so we could, if this was past the opening bell. All right, so now here we have a continuation setup as we have our turn bar, and we have our red background. Now we'll notice we have a momentum arrow as well. And on these turn bars, they just kind of redundantly appear because we'd enter anyway. Because we're trending short, we have our red background and our turn bar in the appropriate direction. Oy. Well, bit of a rough start for the CL, unfortunately. All right, let me start digging through. Digging into some of your guys' questions here. All right, there will be documentation. We'll probably send out an email. Cliff asks, where did this type of chart come from? It was just developed to be a very simple chart, try to create a strong foundation for understanding how to watch the charts and enter the trades without several panels of indicators. So for pretty new traders who may be a little intimidated by all the rules and indicators at first, it makes it very simple to identify and enter these trades so that you can build a good foundation and then eventually move up to a fuller chart, which will display more information so we can enter into more trades. But for those who are starting out, it just makes it much easier to build a foundation rather than jumping in feet first and trying to dig and memorize through all the rules. Even if you focus on the single T or continuation, those with less experience may still have a tougher time with that. So that's really why these charts were created. We got that one. Ronald is asking, how many ticks per bar? So there are 14 tick inherent range in these bars to help hide some of the noise of the market. And then once we get outside of that range, you'll start seeing these wicks and tails. But I think it's more helpful to understand how the DPI functions and what that information is telling us rather than the amount of ticks in the bar. All that is helpful information. Oh, and Cliff is asking, how do you get that gray background color lighter? All right, I can show you guys that real quick. Right click on your chart, select indicators. These down here will be all the indicators loaded onto this particular chart. I want to pick the colored EMA background or EMA background color. And then under displayed parameters, you can adjust these colors to whatever you'd like. So down color will be red, neutral it's gray, up color is green by default. So if you want to adjust those, there may be something that can work better for you. Depending on your screen, the opacity may help to make it easier to see. And TK asks, so on the single T, the background needs to be the color of the direction of the trade. Yes, that's correct. And it should always appear that way. I'm fairly certain it's not possible to get a red background over green bars or vice versa. So you should never have any confusing situations like that. We wanted to eliminate all of those types of situations from possibility and just really zero in and focus on these 3 trade setups initially, because they do give a good foundation of how to watch for trades, anticipate our entry using the DPI. And Robert G is asking, is it fair to say that the core chart has the same rules to enter but without the super trend or the direction line histogram? Yeah, they're the same trade. The rules have just been simplified to reflect the information provided on the chart as well. I did get Jennifer's. Jeff, I got that one. All right. And Jennifer Hammond, Cicely, how often do the rules get favored? Roughly, yeah, between 75 and 80%, what we've seen over time. Depending, it fluctuates, but right around that range. And Ralph is asking if this is an add-on or a standalone product. It is an add-on. So not necessary. If you like it, want to focus on simpler identification and entry, might be something you're interested in. And Ronald mentions no more super trend or blue direction line needed. Yes, that is true, but also keep in mind that we can only identify the single T, continuation, and momentum trade on this chart. So other trade setups you may be familiar with, we can't enter using this chart because we don't have enough information to determine when a good qualified entry point is for those trades. Oh, Steve, I did miss your question. Do you set the calculate on bar close to false on the background color? I believe it is set that way by default. And I think the way they're designed, I don't think it would change the plotting of the background color if you changed it to true, just because of the other information or indicators. They may not be displayed, but that information is used to calculate the background color. So yeah, calculate on bar close is set to true by default. So all right, Robert, yeah, give us a call later this afternoon. We'll answer any questions you have. Jen mentions she likes the chart, but I like seeing the other data to better understand the market visually. Yeah, and you may, while some others may like this chart. Um, as it is very simplified, I like having a balance of um, enough information, but not too much, especially when first starting out. You know, sometimes too much information can be an overload, especially when you're trying to learn the basics. You know, and everyone has different experience levels with trading. So we have a continuation entry, and then we have these back-to-back momentum entries. And as far as stacking trades go, of course, if that's something you would like to do, you're more than welcome to. Um, we don't really have any recommendations that way. That's up to each individual trader. So, and what would you do if you want to enter into multiple trades? If you're already in a trade, you would just put in another order for the second DPI while this first one is still managing. So, or we can wait as this one, we would trigger here, enter at the green DPI with our 15 tick stop and 6 tick profit target halfway there. And then during this bar, while it's painting live, we may see it dip down to this tail, which didn't get low enough to stop us out. It went about 9 ticks from our entry. Or we could hit our profit target, hit break even, and then come get stopped out at break even. And if that's the case, we would simply have hit our profit target. Our runner would have been closed out, and then we can just re-enter in this next momentum entry and manage it the same exact way. And that one would hit profit target, but the runner would still be at break even. And here's an example of the yellow DPI. This is another warning that basically says don't enter into this trade. So we do have a couple ways to easily disqualify these trade setups. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, seems a bit of a slow day. So here we have another example of a momentum trade, long. And this one would have hit our profit target in the middle of this bar. The runner doesn't quite reach the point where we can adjust the stop, but at least it would get stopped out at break even. And that's part of the money management strategy. And goes back to one of the questions Jennifer asked about the win ratio, which is why the money management strategy is set up the way it is, because that's how the math works out. As we want to at least extract our initial profit target, because if roughly 4 out of 5 is a winning trade, then just hitting the profit target will still put us slightly in the positive, and that's assuming that no runners were hit, which is often not the case. We're going to hit some of them, of course, but we're never going to catch any of these runners without the opportunity. And once we hit our profit target, there's no further risk with that trade. So, and again, here we have an example. If we do have our green background color, but we're already past the first color bar. So that is too late of an entry. So we're not going to be able to enter into this trade, as we don't want to get in too late. The reason for that is we've seen that getting in later than the first color bar often does not have enough it's less probable that we'll at least hit our profit target. And here we have another momentum short in the TF. And then so basically all these rules are just flipped for depending on the direction of the trade you're going. As far as money management, if you're trending long, you trail at the low of the previous bar or most recently completed bar. And if you're trending short, you trail at the high of the previous bar. Again, so for this one, hits the profit target somewhere in here. And then once our fourth bar closes, we can start trailing at the high of this bar. So then we get stopped out here. Now, I would like to point out, notice we do have this downward momentum arrow, and our turn bar is pointing up. So letting us know that if we continue hitting the green DPI, we're going to start trending long. But our downward arrow is here. Why is it here? Well, even if we had the red background, or we put in our DPI price ahead of time, expecting to see that background color after this bar plots, our entry price would never have been reached in the plotting of this bar. So even if we put in our stop limit order at the entry price, once the price reverses and hit the opposite DPI, we know that our trade is no longer qualified, so we definitely don't want to get filled at that price. So we can just cancel our order. And that's why it's very important to use stop limit orders when entering these trades. And if you're not familiar with NinjaTrader, we do that by clicking in the mouse wheel on the dome. And it will ask if you want to confirm your stop limit order. And then a possible momentum entry here, but we'd have to wait to see if we get our red background, because we aren't sure at this point. So, and Steve asked a great question. Wouldn't you get a quicker heads up if the background is going to be the correct color if you set it to false? Possibly, but we do have to be careful about that. So when Pro9 first started, with the first time I looked at the charts when I was first introduced to Todd a couple years ago, before it was fully released, we tried it with the blue line was set to calculate on bar close, set to false. So during the creation of that bar, we would see the blue line wiggle up and down as the price adjusted, letting us kind of get an idea of where it may be when it closes. But what ended up happening is that it would look like it was going to plot and make it to the correct side of the histogram, but by the time that the bar closed, the blue line wouldn't actually close where it looked like it would, so we'd get false positives. So it's one of those situations where we kind of have to just make a decision, um, and just rather avoid that type of situation with a indicator that can kind of go back and forth depending on which way the price is moving. If the price is moving up and down before it plots, uh, it can, you may see that indecisive background indicator. So yeah, it would be um, easier to anticipate the entries that way. But I think for the purposes of this simplified chart, the way it functions is, to eliminate confusion like that, because we don't want to present a simplified version with an indicator that uh, kind of goes back and forth before it plots. So, because you'd see, it might flash red and then turn gray if the price moves back up, and then keep switching between the two. And then when the bar closes, I mean, it's likely that it'll plot red, but that may not be the case. So that's why it's designed that way. So although it is much simpler, of course you're going to be able to glean more information from a fuller chart. And if you're more familiar with that or prefer that, um, totally use that. So I myself do like to look at a fuller chart and be able to enter all the trades. But, this is a good foundational place to start. So, all right, guys, are there any more questions you guys have about the core chart or any of the trade setups in general that we covered, or the money management strategy? I do recognize quite a few names, so I know you guys have been members for a while. You probably just wanted to check out the core chart. But if you have any additional questions on them, feel free to holler at me in the questions box, and we'll try to get all your questions answered here. Any confusion cleared up. And seems like a bit of a slower day in the markets today, so not a ton of trade setups, and some days are going to be like that. Typically after holidays too are like that, especially holidays where the markets are closed. Nope, that is the question box. So you just type in a question there, and I'll be able to see it and answer you. All right, excellent. So let me refresh. And then I would like to point out as well on our friend the TF here, these arrows that pop up, and then when the bar closes, it's the wrong direction. So you don't want that to cause any confusion. They're just remnant arrows due to the way the arrows have to plot live. So because the arrow doesn't know which way the direction the bar is before it closes. So it doesn't actually know. It's just telling you, hey, possible momentum entry if the other rules are met. So, well, now there is almost just a signal to enter the trade. We do need the correct background color as well. But you can get rid of those by refreshing your chart. Now let me wait till this refreshes. And so again, we have this yellow DPI letting us know we shouldn't enter this trade. which we wouldn't anyway because we don't have a green background color. Steve is asking how the recoil works. Um, I guess I can cover that briefly. We do want to try to just focus on these charts, but I know quite a few people are interested in it. It is a hybrid momentum designed to either uh, enter on a normal momentum entry and ride the trade as far as possible, similar to how we do with the current money management strategy, although it has been adjusted slightly for uh, automation. So it is different. It doesn't enter into uh, the momentum trade exactly how we would enter in if we're trading manually. It does have to be programmed differently uh, because of the way it identifies trades different than a human would. Um, and it's also designed to hop in on a turn bar and try to ride the uh, move as long as possible. So it's called the surf, the recoil surf, because it's designed to enter and surf from turn bar to turn bar. So briefly, and I know they're going to work on getting some more videos and education about the recoil out as soon as possible. So. All right, so it looks like CL, we did have another qualified momentum here, but kind of a slow day in CL, which, slow days are going to happen. Not every day on the market is going to be a quick moving day with a lot of movement. Um, and it looks like we didn't have petroleum news today either. It's when there's holidays. They usually switch the petroleum status report from Wednesday to Thursday. So something to be aware of tomorrow. And usually when that news hits, there will be a lot of movement. That's when we see the CL really move. Typically within seconds, it can move, 10, 20, 30 bars, depending on the impact of that news. And occasionally can be pretty choppy. So we definitely want to avoid entering into a new trade basically during any news event. We want to just sit out that 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after news. Very important because looking back historically, we've seen a higher frequency of qualified trades that end up going against us during that 10-minute window surrounding the news. And occasionally, I mean, you may see a winning trade in there, but we found that it's just much too risky to enter into trades into that news window. So very important. If you're in a trade before the news happens, of course, continue managing that trade as the price could stop around news. It could take off. Anything can happen during the news. It's kind of unpredictable, which is why we don't enter into any new trades during that time. All right, so not too much going on. All right, Jeff, thank you for joining us. All right, does anyone have any other questions regarding the recoil? I mean, not recoil, sorry. That will be for another webinar. A little outside the scope of this today. About the core chart, how to identify any of the rules or the money management strategy. I do know some of you have been using Pro9Trader for a while, so you're probably more familiar with that. and don't have as many questions, which is totally okay. Thank you for joining me anyhow. All right, here in our good friend the NQ did have a momentum trade here, possibly hit profit target. So one of the things I do like about the momentum trades is even if we don't see that second color bar plot, we can still hit our profit target because after we hit this, close this bar, we're already 4 ticks there, and then we just need 2 more ticks. So even if we get a turn bar, uh, oftentimes it does move up at least 2 or 3 ticks and almost create uh, that next green color bar, but that's the amount of ticks we need. So, and you'll often, and in that case, we'd sell off our 2 contracts once we hit our profit target, and you adjust the stop on your runner to break even. And then when the price starts moving back down, we stop out our runner, and then we just wait for the next qualified entry point. Olivier, I hope I'm saying that right, it's only on NinjaTrader. Yes, these charts will only display on the NinjaTrader platform. So, uh, as an option, if you already have a trading platform and brokerage account with something that's not compatible with NinjaTrader, you could use the free version of NinjaTrader to display the charts. Uh, you would have to run a separate live and historical data feed to it, however, of course, to display the charts. And then here we have a single T entry, and we know it's a single T because we have our multiple color bars in here. And using the green DPI, may have to go for a retracement. And retracements are okay to attempt on any qualified trade entry. So if we miss our DPI price, say we're heading long, and we miss this entry price of 50.49.5, if the price dips back down below that, we can just put in our order then. And then when it travels back up, our order would be filled. And then, so if we entered before the close of this bar, but we were attempting a retracement entry to get back to this DPI price. If it travels back down, put in our order, and then if it travels back up, gets filled, and when this bar closes, we're already halfway to our profit target. So one of the things I do like about when retracement entries, whenever I can get them, as there are going to be times where, of course, we're not going to be able to enter into retracement entries, but oftentimes, if you catch it on while the first color bar is still forming, it does often retrace enough for us to get to the turn bar entry price. And then if we attempted a retracement, after this bar plots, we're already halfway, and then our next bar, we've already hit our profit target. So and here we have another single T short entry. And that one does hit profit target as well. Um, But you can see our money management strategy is basically the same across these trade setups. Even though there are different profit targets and stops for the momentum trade, the overall principle is still the same, where we want to hit our profit target first, and then leave an opportunity for ourselves to catch a runner, if possible. But we're not going to catch a runner if we don't have the third contract in there for the opportunity. But we also want to be stacking profit in the bank while we're looking for these opportunities to catch runners. And again, if we're able to enter on the turn bar, so in this case, we would hit our profit target, and then we have a yellow turn bar pointing up, though we don't have a green background, so wouldn't be looking to enter here anyhow. And then there's a continuation entry here, where you'd enter at the red DPI, which would be 50-40. Even. We can also add a tick to the low, or subtract a tick from the high or add a tick to the high to find that. I'm sorry, subtract a tick from the low, or add a tick to the high of that bar to find that bar's DPI. And this one did travel a couple bars, so we would grab a couple extra ticks with this runner, having hit the profit target at the close. At the high of the previous bar after the close of bar 5. So that is, again, if we enter on the turn bar. If we enter on the first color bar, we just push that back a bar. So we wouldn't start trailing at the high of the previous bar until bar 6. Olivier is asking, you only trade between the regular market hours? Yes. So for the CL, that would be 9 a.m. Eastern to 2:30, I believe is the official close. We cut off at 2, just a half hour before the actual market time or market close. And for the other markets we look at, the NQ, EMD, TF, and YM, 9:30 a.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern. So, and those are the markets we look at, and the ones we've been using Pro9 with. I know some people who use Pro9 will use it with gold, soybeans. If you're on a completely different schedule, maybe looking for the European markets, the 6E or FTAX are pretty good ones to check out. And if you're just starting, you may want to, especially when looking at a new market, may want to test it on Sim for a couple days to see if it's kind of market that has the enough price movement to provide enough trade setups through a given day. So, and Olivia mentions gold and oil very good in the early morning. Yeah, and then sometimes as well they also are extremely slow, or can go through some slow periods. So, you know, it's kind of a give and take. And it really, things like that come down to personal preference. I know a lot of traders have their favorite markets. But I know like soybeans is another one that's kind of popular. And then, but those are the main 5 we look at. It will work on most other futures markets. There are some markets that it doesn't due to the bar size. So some decent downward moves, a couple down short trades in the NQ today. Did hit a little chop here. Definitely not going to be looking at any long entries. And that's another good thing about these charts also is if you see a gray background, probably not going to be looking for any trade setups. So, all right, everyone, last call for any questions regarding this chart, any of the trade setups, rules, money management strategy. All right, Cliff, you're welcome. I hope everyone got most of their questions answered. All right, I'm going to sign off a couple minutes early. We'll be holding day 2. We'll take a look at the full Pro9Trader chart tomorrow, go over the rest of the trade setups, and also cover the same trade setups on the other charts, and we can look at the difference and see how the extra information we can get from the other indicators can help us to anticipate the trade setups better and maybe enter in a bit more ahead of time. And we'll also go over the money management strategy and any other helpful tips to get everyone on the fast track with Pro9Trader. So if there are no further questions, all right, Olivier, I'll go ahead and shoot you an email with some more information for you. So thank you all for joining me. Hope you learned a little bit more, got your questions answered. And I hope the rest of your day goes well as your trading day. Hopefully the markets pick up a bit more before the end of the day. And until tomorrow, happy trading.